Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 2nd of July, comes to you from London. And we start by looking at the dollar index, still just pushing that a little bit higher, turned a little bit bearish short term. We had a fall away at the end of last week, but still looking pretty bullish on the medium term. So dollar strength dominates, and the euro looking weak. Political news in Germany this morning not helping, and so Euros has a mixed picture on the short term, upside targets and downside targets, but the trend is still bearish, although we're just slightly above on the cloud. Looking at the Japanese yen, dollar's looking stronger here, continuing its uptrend. Sterling looking weaker. Brexit uncertainties just still weighing on the currency. Lagging line hitting the cloud here, still in bearish territory, and long-term bearishness starting to kick in here. So still looking like this 130 level we've broken. We've got a downside target of 128 against the dollar. Looking against the euro, sterling looking lower here as well with multiple downside targets. Against the Swiss franc, we see we're lower as well, and against the Aussie dollar, also looking lower too. Looking at Bitcoin, its woes continue. It did have a jump at the end of last week, and it has put it into short-term bullish territory, but the medium and long-term position is still very bearish. Looking at US stock markets, the indices had a pretty bad week. We see that here in the candle. We fell away very sharply at the close on Friday. We're seeing really that weakness just kicking in on the US market. Nasdaq also just sitting below the cloud, still bearish on the short term. And again, another down week for the Nasdaq last week. The Dow also lower, just consistently falling away here in the trend, and the Russell 2000 also demonstrating that as well, just falling lower on the short-term trend. So markets still look pretty bearish short-term, and not helped by the futures this morning, down 0.6% on the S&P, and the Nasdaq E-mini also pushing lower. So we're seeing just bearishness creeping in there. Looking at the UK market, we're down 1% this morning, so that's looking pretty bearish. And the UK mid-caps also looking lower as well. In Germany, political turmoil just is affecting the DAX. We are down here 0.7% this morning, and that downtrend still continuing. And the CAC Quarant's following suit, down 1%, so Paris looking pretty negative as well. Japan also down 2% overnight, just falling lower there, and now into clear bearish short-term territory. So global markets really just selling off completely. Seeing the Hang Seng actually was up, just quite bucking the trend there, but has fallen heavily of late, and China down a further 2.5%. This has been our main worry, of course, this year. Looking at the Sensex, we're seeing here the Indian market lower, and the Australian market also just struggling to hold on a little bit, but not down as much as the other markets. Brent crude is lower this morning, but still in the bull trend. So we are seeing still at climbing up the hill here, and WTI also just continuing its short-term bullish trend as well. US nat gas just struggling to hold this 290 level, sitting at $2.89. Gold below the 1250 level this morning. We could be well hitting a low point here for gold. This is where we were last year. It was around the beginning of July where gold had its summer rally. So we may well see gold starting to turn the corner, but no clear signs of that yet. Silver also looking bearish. US 10-year Treasury yields lower at 2.83%. So that's also just looking worried, just for yields just starting to test that medium-term chart. Taking a look at Apple, we see here we're still bearish below the cloud on the short-term chart, and we do have downside targets as much as low as 8% lower. Looking at Amazon, also just bearish on that short-term chart as well. Has had a stellar performance this year, of course, but we are just seeing the sell-off. And Google, which has underperformed, also sold off a little bit on Friday as well. Facebook also bucking the trend here, just below the short-term cloud. We're seeing this on a lot of tech stocks, which is wandering into short-term territory. Downside potential of 4% lower to 186. Just can't hold that $200 level, which is quite significant. And tech stocks just still are a concern for markets globally, and Microsoft also just looking lower there as well. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you.